This live webinar brings together two innovators at the forefront of digital biomarker research, Labfront and Zana. Labfront's research platform enables high-quality capture of physiological markers from wearables, ECGs, CGMs, and EMA. Zana's VOICE-BIOME platform adds a powerful complementary layer, voice as a biomarker, capturing acoustic features linked to cardiorespiratory, cognitive, or emotional health states from simple smartphone recordings. Together, we'll explore what becomes possible when physiological and voice data are combined, from chronic disease monitoring to longitudinal real-world studies, and show both platforms in action.
Welcome to Labfront, the platform designed specifically for health researchers. Labfront helps researchers remotely collect high-quality physiological data and manage participant adherence, making it easier to run studies without needing to code or work with SDKs or APIs. So, how does Labfront work? In just a few steps, researchers can set up a project, collect data while tracking participant adherence, and then analyze the results with ease. As a researcher, you can create a project in minutes using the app builder. You can choose the type of data you want to collect, connect devices, configure surveys, and set up event tracking to match your study goals. Labfront allows you to build a participant app experience tailored to your research. You can include wearable and physiological data collection, survey-based inputs, and event tracking features, giving participants a simple and guided way to contribute data throughout the study. Once your setup is complete, participants can join your project using anonymized invite codes through the Labfront mobile app. After pairing their device in just a few simple steps, they are ready to start capturing data. Throughout the study, participants use the app to sync data, complete activities, and record their progress. As participants complete their tasks, the researcher dashboard updates automatically, giving you a clear overview of adherence and study progress. This continuous feedback helps researchers take action immediately when needed, including sending push notifications directly from the dashboard. You can access your study data at any time with just one click. Labfront allows you to download your data as often as needed in CSV format, making it easy to integrate with tools like Excel or MATLAB for further analysis. And to help you get even more value from your data, Labfront also offers access to experienced data scientists who can support deeper analysis and insights.
We also generate nightly and multi-night sleep reports. And we're developing sleep regularity index and circadian assessments too. So our data science team works directly with research groups to help interpret results and prepare data for publication. You could get some more information at labfront.com analytics. So that's Labfront in a nutshell, an end-to-end infrastructure for collecting, monitoring, and analyzing real-world physiological and survey data.
What we bring basically to the table to leverage the capacities and the abilities of Labfront is another signal which is underestimated or has not been fully investigated until recently, and this is the voice, which is also a unique characteristic and powerful instrument for all of us humans. So it's an indicator of the biological state as well as medical conditions. And what makes it powerful is that it can be measured in objectively, accurately, and repeatedly. And this is what makes it also powerful as a health biomarker. We are used to the traditional biomarkers from blood and imaging, which are, of course, the state of the art and are the standards in medicine, but they're often invasive, expensive, difficult to scale. And this is what voice brings and complements in terms of the biomarker. It's very accessible with tools that basically we use in our everyday devices, and it's an instrument and a signal that reflects both the physical as well as our emotional well-being. So what we have built at Zana is VOICE-BIOME. This is a device agnostic end-to-end platform that, as we say, turns human voice into actionable health insights, independent of the language that try to picture or illustrate a simplified version of So yes, a simplified version of our platform. So it starts with the data collection. One of the ways and more simple ways that we offer to enable this data collection is through a mobile app on which a user, a person, or a patient can be guided in a series of what we call voice tasks. This can be a sustained vowel, a reading text, or just free conversational speech, less than a minute or so. These samples of voice data recordings are sent to the platform, VOICE-BIOME platform, where we initially start with the processing of the recordings and extracting features out of the voice. And we will give you a better understanding today what this library and this comprehensive set of features consists of. We then take these features, vectorized, and feed them into machine learning algorithms, correlating them with specific health outcomes. And these can be a variety of health outcomes. We'll give you a series of examples today. The idea is to train these machine learning models and be able then, when a new voice recording comes that is known to the data set, we'll be able to predict what that outcome would be. It's certainly a whole of this technology based on a multitude of coupling the user data, health outcomes also with recordings, and so that we're able, based on these models, to predict or also to make an assessment of a certain risk score. And this could be, in two of the examples that we'll give you today, it could be an exacerbation of the lungs, it could be a decompensation that the patient has. So depending on the health outcomes on which you are correlating the voice. And these scores, that can serve for risk stratification, for diagnosis, for prognosis, can be shown or illustrated into monitoring dashboard in order to identify high-risk patients, or they can also easily be ingested or integrated with APIs of your choice into your various diverse applications. So the VOICE-BIOME platform gives you a possibility on one side to easily collect the different voices based on specific points in time, but also longitudinally, as well as the flexibility to import this data into what we call the VOICE-BIOME Studio. And in this studio, you're able to be guided through an automated workflow or process from the extraction of the features from the voice to the analysis, as well as machine learning, training, prediction, as well as report generation. So the VOICE-BIOME Studio is an interface, an easy-to-use interface that allows this facilitated visual workflow orchestration, empowering teams to design and execute these workflows, as I mentioned, from the data set collection and importing to the processing of the samples of the voice recordings, to analyzing the features, as well as machine learning analysis. And my colleagues Prashant and Lars will also demonstrate you hands-on in the platform how this works. It's a modular workflow design. You can do a process monitoring in real time, as well as easily not just analyze the data, but also download those reports for easy integration into your publications, into your other artifacts of choice. So it's a platform which we've built purposely for academic clinical research groups, digital health and life science companies, innovation labs, or any developers or investigators who are interested and willing to explore the voice as a biomarker modality. And what makes this very unique as well as useful is that it's disease agnostic, so you can collect data from any population, allows this end-to-end automation, as well as reproducibility of the results. I'd like to give you two examples of the data that we have collected as well as validated in two specific indications. One is in the domain of heart failure in cardiology, and the other one in the respiratory domain, particularly in asthma and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. The real-world application of these biomarkers that we have built and validated are specifically positioned in the disease management stage of the patient journey. So we longitudinally capture this data and do this prognostic, basically detection and biomarker in order to monitor the patients over time and to detect a possible disease progression. In each of these domains for heart failure and COPD, we have conducted studies, one in Germany, the other one in Netherlands, to collect the data, to validate our results, as well as published our achievements and the results in a series of publications. And now underway are pilots integrating this technology into the digital care programs of telemonitoring of patients for both heart failure and COPD. And why is this important? And to give you a real-world application of this, in chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, it's a very debilitating disease of the lungs, affects almost 500 million patients worldwide. And what these patients suffer from is this obstruction of the respiratory airways. They are narrow, they are accumulating mucus, and swelling and inflammation, which leads to what is called an exacerbation. We'll use this term while we demonstrate the platform as well. And this is an exacerbation that, these exacerbations are also the main causes of hospitalizations if they are not detected on time. So VOICE here presents a very useful, a very objective measure of their respiratory system. And that's why we have investigated this into more details. We have, as I mentioned, conducted a study on which we have been longitudinally monitoring and tracking the patients over 3 months. And daily they have done these voice exercises over the mobile app, as well as in order to capture their exacerbation state, they fill out this questionnaire on the app. This is called an exact questionnaire that basically gives a score and indicates that what is the exacerbation stage of the patient. And when the patient has an exacerbation event, it's not just the exact questionnaire that serves as a validation, but also a physician-confirmed diagnosis. And what we've been investigating, particularly in this case, is to look at the stable phases of the patient, as well as what is called the prodromal, or the phase prior to the event, as well as the event exacerbation event phase. And our goal was to differentiate the prior phase with the event phase. So basically to detect if the patient is now at this worsening state before the exacerbation starts, because this is a very sensitive and a very important stage where we want to detect that the patient is getting worse and has a high risk for exacerbation. So we want to intervene on time. And as I mentioned, we will show you also on the platform how this is also validated and how the platform basically also facilitates this analysis and prediction. In terms of the results, what we have been able to validate so far with a very promising result is that we are able to detect around 79% of the exacerbation states at least 3 days before the onset, and 85% of these events at the day of the onset. So as I mentioned, a very promising result to be then used as a tool for remote monitoring of these patients and intervene on time. And what we see, especially at these prodromal phases or these prior phases, the worsening before the event, in terms of how they are manifested in the speech apparatus and in the voice, we see along the majority of patients how they have a decreased maximum phonation time, especially when they do this sustained vowel phonation, which is they have to say as long as possible, a good tool for the lung capacity and the volume measurement. We also see at this worsening phase how their jitter and shimmer measures increase, which are indicators of instability and breathiness. They have a weaker voice that manifests in measures such as harmonic to noise ratio, or CPP, as well as less articulatory precisions. Another interesting and very, very important use case is in heart failure. These are also patients that have this debilitating disease. A hallmark symptom here is the fluid retention in the lungs, and especially when this fluid is redistributed, especially with concentrated in the lungs, this leads to what is called a cardiac decompensation. And this is also one of the main causes of hospitalizations. So why is voice also a very important measurement here? What we were able to validate is a very unique study on which we have been investigating 130 patients that were hospitalized with a heart failure decompensation. They were admitted in the hospital, and every day we were tracking their daily voice recording until discharge. And then for the next 6 months, they were also doing these voice recordings, and we're also collecting a series of clinical data accompanying these voice samples. What we do, we, as I mentioned, we have this pipeline on which we do the processing, we do the feature extraction. And in this particular case, what we have investigated and what we have tried to do is to differentiate just from the voice features alone, so basically from the recording, if the patient is in a decompensated state, so basically the stick state when they came to the hospital, or in a recovered or a compensated stage. And again, this serves as a good tool to track these patients over time, and based on the voice analysis, you can see if the patient has a high risk of being in a decompensated stage, which also is a sign for the doctors and physicians to intervene and treat this before they're hospitalized. And the results that we were able to achieve so far in order to basically classify the decompensated and recovered state of the patient, we have an accuracy of over 86% and an AUC of 0.91. Very good, very promising results. We also see particular features that are prominent in these populations, especially at the different stages of the disease. For example, the decreased jitter and shimmer when they are recovered in over 68% of the patients, or when they are also improved, they have this breathiness also getting better. I'd like to pass it over to Prashant, and then Lars will take over in order to give you a more hands-on demonstration of our VOICE-BIOME studio, where we facilitate also the analytics and makes it easier for other research groups to discover new biomarkers. So Prashant, the stage is yours.
Before we go into the platform, I'd like to show you a quick video of the Zana Voice app. So the Zana Voice app is a digital companion app where the users can do simple voice tasks. So currently as part of the flow, so the users perform 3 voice tasks. The first is the free speech task, where the users are free to talk about anything they want. And the second task is the long vowel task, or the long vowel phonation task. And the third task is the read text task, where the users are asked to read a standard text. So once the users complete the task, they get like quick metrics like the pitch, the energy, the smoothness, and the breathiness. Just to provide some quick insights for them. There's also information on what each of these features means and how it impacts them. So I just wanted to show a quick video of the Zana Voice app. Before we go into So once the user completes the recordings in the app, the data automatically goes into the datasets page of VOICE-BIOME. But apart from the app, the datasets page of VOICE-BIOME also allows users to automatically to manually upload data. The data can be audio data as well as metadata. For example, this was the dataset is for the COPD exacerbation detection. So for COPD, the users perform voice tasks using their phone for 3 months, and then they also filled in an exact questionnaire. And the exact questionnaire, the exact scores were used to label an event or a baseline or a prodromal phase and so on. As you can see, this is the metadata that was used for COPD use case. We have the exact score as well as the status, that such as if there was an event or if they were in the prodromal phase and so on. So VOICE-BIOME allows us to perform machine learning experiments to distinguish between an event and a prodromal phase and so on. But also apart from this, we also offer the possibility to export and merge data from Labfront. As you can see here, along with the voice data from Zana, we can also get the heart rate variability, sleep hours, and such data from Labfront. So yeah, this was all about the datasets page. So in general, VOICE-BIOME is a platform where researchers can turn their voice data and raw data into actionable insights. So, and the central part of VOICE-BIOME is the studio. So this is a visual workflow orchestration environment where users can run process end-to-end using templates. So for example, we do have a machine learning training template to perform various kinds of machine learning experiments using on the voice data that you already have. So I will also load a predefined template to show you how one can set up machine learning experiments using VOICE-BIOME. So the first step is once the process, you're asked to select a data set on which you want to run experiments on. And then you can ask for which you want experiments on. Here I've just selected a sustained vowel phonation task. And then these are all the parameters for the machine learning training that you want to run. You can select what two classes you want to distinguish, such as an event or a baseline and so on. You can select which task to include in the machine learning training. You can select the models. You can select the normalization parameters and the cross-validation strategy and so on. So once you click on start a process, you're taken to the analytics dashboard. So the analytics dashboard is like a central place where all the results of all the pipelines are organized. And it can show different kinds of metrics, and they are also filtered by protocols and as well as the different processes. So yeah, I like to invite Lars to go in detail on the analytics dashboard and just discuss what are the cool metrics that one can view in the analytics dashboard. So
when we load in audio data set and start the feature extraction process, this will create a feature database, and then under this tab here we can see some configuration details like the sample rate that was used and also the extracted features. We have developed a feature extraction library that should contain all the common features that you can find in papers, and also it should capture the various aspects of dysphonic speech, like voice instability, breathiness, spectral distribution, features related to glottal and vocal tract function, and also task-specific features like the speaking rate for speech task, for example. Once we've extracted our features, we can take a look at them, which is usually a good idea. So here you can see the timeline of a patient in this COPD study that was already mentioned. These patients were tracked for 3 months, where they did some daily voice task, or they were asked to do that, and filled out that exact questionnaire, which gives us the score. Highlighted here. Now the voice feature itself, it's shown with blue dots. And yeah, red shows some smooth version of that. The currently selected feature is the so-called jitter in the sustained vowel task, which indicates like vocal fold instability. We can choose another one from a list here. One that is easy to understand is the so-called maximum phonation time, which gives us the duration, how long a patient is able to sustain the vowel, which we can also look at. In this, when we click on a dot, we can see the vowel as a spectrogram and also listen to it. Yeah, we can now compare this feature value with a measure like the exact, or we can choose some others like this breathless score, which is part of the exact questionnaire like the others. And yeah, you can also see that this breathless score, it's elevated in the events which are indicated in red here. Those are the exacerbation events, and the early worsening period called prodromal phase is indicated in orange. Then the green is a recovery of an event, and blue is an initial baseline period. So if we now scroll through the graphs, scroll through the patients, we can see, for example, that in this one patient, the shorter vowel duration indicated by the blue curve seems to coincide with increased breathlessness, as we would maybe also expect. But yeah, however, doing all of finding patterns here by visual inspection tends to be rather impractical, especially when we have many patients and features. Therefore, we can have these heat tables where we can screen all features statistically at the same time. Basically, so here in this table, every cell corresponds to a feature like this NPD that we just saw, and each with the value is the outcome of a statistical analysis like the Wilcoxon p-value test that compares the feature values in the baseline or event or observation event phase or the prodromal phase. We have some different analysis implemented here, different p-values, effect sizes, also correlations with our scores. And yeah, that should allow us to quickly find promising biomarkers, as also indicated by the green color. Usually the greener the better here. Yeah. So if we want even more details about certain features, like how the values are distributed, we may also look at box plots or density estimates for certain individual features, and yeah, we can select by group and some other parameters. Besides feature analysis is also quite, yeah, maybe go that at the end. Besides feature analysis, we can also here again easily set up machine learning problems like this binary classification task, where we want to distinguish between two clinical states based on the voice features, like for COPD, baseline versus event, prodromal phase, and yeah. So now, importantly, of course, this can be generalized, this framework, across many different data sets and conditions. So, for example, when I now switch to the acute heart failure data set that was also just described, where the patients were admitted in a decompensated state due to fluid retention, and then were tracked until discharge, where they were considered recompensated. Those would then be the events that were also then automatically selected here. Yeah, we can further configure our training task here, like taking the task, sustained vowel, text reading, and spontaneous answering. Different segmentations, like taking the whole vowel for features or center 3 seconds, things like that. And yeah, we can select different models here, like logistic regression, support vector classifier, and forth, and compare different feature sets. It should also be possible to create your own. Yeah. So when we run the training routine and have all these options selected, this will generate a lot of data, like performance metrics in the cross-validation, and that's where the reporting system comes in handy. So, I mean, the training routine will automatically create some different types of reports for different types of, different levels. So, for instance, a multitask report would also compare the different tasks, and whereas a task report would be for a specific task. Let's look at this one, for example. So here you can see that we have trained a lot of models, maybe over 1,000, and each of them, because we had different born models and feature sets here, each of these models have accuracy and AUC values. Now, here, for instance, we have the task analysis, which shows us which task performed best here, the text reading task, for instance. we can get further get some statistics, ROC curves for the task here, and also combinations of the task, how they would perform, or if we combine them. We can further get like information about which model performed best across the tasks. Now, this is somewhat unspecific because it averages like overall tasks and so on. And you can see we had a lot of data points in these boxes. So what we can then do always is here in the header, we also see again what kind of options we have in the report. We click, for example, on the long haul task, and then we get a task report for this task specifically. We can also get, as you can see, model analysis. We get before analysis for segmentation for feature sets. And we can even go deeper here by selecting, for example, the random forest, and that gives us even more specific for what feature set performed best for this model and this task. Yeah, so in order to easier work with this and also create reports that you can share, currently it's possible to export this into a Word document. Yeah, I find this quite helpful. As doing all of this stuff manually gets very tedious, so it's good to have it automated. And when I click on this, this should create a very similar looking Word document with similar information or the same information and also the navigation, right? Yeah, so that's that. Okay. I mean, showing again what we have here. So that's all basically for all option we have some analysis. Yeah, so.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's Timo, yeah, I don't know. Should we directly have some questions or at the end?
Yeah.
When we
that there is this opportunity where you can collect the data with the voice that we enable, and then also the samples can be jointly integrated with those data from Labfront, importing into the VOICE-BIOME in order to perform all these very interesting useful correlation analysis or prediction based on your task or on your problem of choice. Now, if you're wondering, okay, what else we can do, we were thinking about a couple of interesting inspirational use cases because they have not been investigated yet. So we're looking also for other teams to look into these use cases. One of them would be to correlate or to see how hand in hand the physical activity can be mapped to vocal biomarkers. We know that wearables do a good job into tracking our step counts or the activity levels, and based on that we can have these staging on which there is a low activity, so days with low activity, moderate or high, but the voice can add additional insights into that. So by analyzing a series of features which are already available in our platform, such as the prosody, vocal energy, the stability in articulation, or the rate and pauses, then we could add additional insights. With prosody, we can look at pitch variability, which can also indicate this emotional blunting or a burnout or an indication of a depressive state. We can look at the energy and the voice through the variability in the loudness, if there is a decline from a certain baseline when the user starts to track the voice data. As I mentioned, the articulation stability, or how much do they pause, words per minute, MPT. And these gives us a better understanding to differentiate, is there a reduced activity but still with normal speech, reflecting more of a motivational or a lifestyle factor, or is it a sedentary state, like a low activity state, but with also reduced energy, reduced articulation stability, more breathing, so kind of a worsening state of breathing problems indicated by these vocal biomarkers, which are indicative or systematic fatigue or reduced respiratory drive. So very interesting to look at populations, for example, when they are recovering or when there is maybe a virus and so on. And another interesting use case, as I said, also underexplored, is to map this to the heart rate variability, which is an excellent signal of an indicator of stress. So HRV drop signals this autonomic stress increase. However, it doesn't tell us if this is a mental stress, if the individual is physically overloaded, or if the individual is systematically unwell. And so by looking at already available markers and features here in the platform that we give you access to work with, you can look at measures such as harmonics to noise ratio, the variability of pitch, as I mentioned, shimmer, speech rates, with the H&R, the harmonic to noise ratio, for example, we can see how if there is a stress, usually the voice is controlled, but if there is a physical depletion or decompensation, then it's breathy. So it can be one of the earliest differentiator, or by looking at the speech rate and the pause, it is more of a breathing pattern. And so stress changes the pacing, whereas the physical strain disrupts the breathing and the pauses. So we are able to, so what HRV alone cannot tell us, we add this biological layer of interpretation as well as of better tracking health. And so basically differentiating is just autonomic changes of mental stress, or also a correlation with also physical or systematic strain. So that there is this.
Thank you. That was amazing. Thanks, Julia, Prashant, and Lars. I think you can see why I'm excited about VOICE. You know, it's such a complex, rich biomarker that is really underexplored, and why we at Labfront are really excited to partner with Zana. You know, the scientific rigor, the innovativeness, and user-friendliness of the Zana platform, I think, can meaningfully advance our management of different clinical conditions, and importantly, in real time and a proactive manner. And so we kind of saw that with COPD and CHF as well. So this comes to the excited announcement we'd like to share with you all, and that's how you could benefit from what we've done and what you've seen. And you've heard today that Labfront brings continuous physiological data, HRV, stress, activity, stress, and Zana brings validated voice biomarkers with a full machine learning pipeline. And individually, these are powerful tools, but together, I think this creates a multimodal framework that can really answer questions neither platform can do alone. So that's why I think as Labfront and Zana are launching a joint research grant program. And the goal is simple. We want to support the next generation of studies in a multimodal digital biomarkers, combining wearable-derived physiological data with voice-based biomarkers. And this program is designed to accelerate scientific discovery and validation, whether you're running an existing study and want to add a voice biomarker component, or you're designing something entirely new. And so this grant is built to lower the barriers and to give you the tools and support to do it. Next slides. Yeah. So we've structured the grant around two research tracks. The first is a cardiopulmonary extensions track. This is for researchers who want to build on Zana's validated work in COPD and heart failure, adding wearable physiology to strengthen or expand on these existing models. And so you could think of multimodal validation of voice biomarkers, early detection of exacerbations, or combining HRV with vocal features, just like Julia mentioned, to distinguish stress from physical decompensation. And so exactly the kind of work that we had talked about. The second one is the open innovation track. And I think we intentionally made this broad. We want to encourage researchers to explore new domains where combining voice and physiological data might unlock some novel insights. And that could be mental health, sleep research, women's health, fatigue and recovery, neurological conditions, occupational health, digital therapeutics, and even longitudinal studies in healthy populations. So if you have a bold idea that doesn't fit neatly into the cardiopulmonary, the first track, then we still want to hear it. And so that's why we have the second track as well. Next. So we have several award categories to match different research stages and goals. The first is this integration grant. It's an add-on prize. So if you already have an active study and you want to incorporate voice biomarkers, really with minimal protocol changes like an IRB amendment, then this particular specific grant award would meet your needs. There's the Innovation Award. It's a full grant for new or expanded studies that leverage both platforms end to end. Then you have the Validation Award, specifically designed for projects to focus on validating existing cardiopulmonary voice biomarkers and strengthening the evidence base. And then we have a Pioneer Award for the bold, high-risk, high-impact ideas, novel use cases, exploring entirely new domains. And these are projects that could open up the field. Next. And let me tell you what's included, because this is more than just a platform access. From Labfront, you get grant recipients receive advanced research accounts valued at $1,000 each, with up to 10 per study. You also receive Garmin Vivo 5 device for your participants, heart rate variability analytics, sleep activity reports, full end-to-end infrastructure for physiological EMA data structure. For Zana, you get full access to the VOICE-BIOME platform, voice data collection support via smartphone, and really most importantly is direct collaboration with Zana's team. You saw how complex the data is, and we don't want you to feel overwhelmed by doing it. So, the Zana will, gracefully had offered to provide support on feature engineering, multimodal data integration, machine learning strategy, interpretation of voice biomarkers, and basically help generate publication-ready outputs. And, again, we don't want you to feel overwhelmed. And imagine having a team of data scientists and engineers to support you through the whole process of submitting your study to a publication. And so I think this is not just about tools and devices. We really want a genuine research partnership. Thank you. There's some questions already in the Q&A. You want me to go through that real quick? Maybe I'll start with the first question from Mark. Well, first off, I think this Scott had asked whether this is going to be recorded available, and yes, this will be available. And I think we'll send the emails or notification about where you could see that. Mark asked the question: how do you distinguish jitter from the voice versus jitter from network or tech issues for this entity?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, yeah, it's a good question, I guess. I mean, there are several things that could interfere with the computation of features. I mean, I'm not completely sure what jitter of the network would look like, but I could imagine that might be a very sharp drop of the pitch, and then I'm usually, when things start in the calculation of jitter, when there's a very abrupt change, then those frames are kind of ignored, or those periods. And usually only within a certain range of irregularity, they are taken into account. So that's what I would assume. Yeah, but yeah, it's interesting to think about.
Yeah. And if I may add, Lars, I was also thinking about the different segmentations technique that you also perform, where you also take the center stage, and then we also experiment with different ways of processing the audio, the sample, by taking different, also, let's say, parts of the audio. So this also adds another component into some kind of stability or, baseline. And then another aspect I briefly want to mention is also the longitudinal aspect. If we don't have just an ad hoc, let's say, collection, we have been dealing primarily with continuous tracking. So you can also see how these patterns also change over time. If there's a network issue, it will be maybe just sporadically in different points in time.
Next question is by Parnas. Is the idea for researchers and clinicians to use your VOICE-BIOME platform to collect data, disseminate, and do analysis for various diseases? Yeah, absolutely. I think that was what our goal was. And if so, how is security and compliance managed? From the Labfront side, I mean, we're HIPAA, GDPR compliant. We also don't have any identifiable personal information on our platform. We have purely anonymous information. We ask the researchers to basically have your own identifier ID, like your study ID, and you have your own Excel sheet to basically correlate that ID with the person that you're dealing with. So that's primarily how we deal on the security and compliance on the Labfront side. I think Zana's the same way, right, Julie?
So yeah, it's similar to that. I also wanted to point out, so we have, we do not track identifiable information. So it's basically, for example, when we will integrate with Labfront, we will share some form of authenticating the same participant. In the studio, every organization, of course, has their own space, their own PPS, which is totally separate from the others. They have their own account. We do, if there is any kind of, let's say, personal data, but which we actually avoid, we also separate those, GDPR compliant. So basically along the same lines. And as I said, each organization will have only access only to their space and to their data.
Yeah.
We also have an ISO, and we also ISO certified for the quality management system 3485. Yeah. Prashant, you also wanted to add something.
If I can add something, so the platform can be used to analyze different extracted features and also perform machine learning experiments. But one aspect that also gets overlooked is all these models are available for you to deploy. So all these models are also stored in a secure location. And in the future, if you want to do prediction tasks for new data coming from the audio, you can select to automatically deploy models. And as users perform the voice task, you can also see real time using your trained models to see if they have exacerbation or if they have failure. And you can also set up alerts for them. So it's kind of like you can also preemptively or proactively monitor the status of the patients enrolled in your study. And also the voice data is stored in secure buckets. So yeah, I just also wanted to add that.
Yeah, very important. Thank you, Prashant.
Yeah, thank you. Stephanie has a question. Orthostatic intolerance due to hypocapnia involves reduced cerebral perfusion and or oxygen availability. Would that cause detectable voice changes?
I won't be very, let's say, I won't have right now the authority or the knowledge to respond to this question. Maybe this is exactly an open research question that we need to investigate.
Yeah.
In how much
sounds like Stephanie, you need to fly.
Oxygen. I mean, certainly anything. So as we know, the speech apparatus is so complex. Anything regarding neurocognition, neuromuscular activity, and then of course the everything decompensatory are impacted or impacts the voice. There could be a change, but again, I don't have the confidence to say to respond to this question, with accuracy. So yeah, it's worth investigating, Stephanie.
Yeah. So I'm mindful of everyone's time. It's the end of the hour. I think from my standpoint, I'm okay to stay for a few extra 5 to 10 minutes to answer these questions. So for those people who need to leave, please feel free to do so. And then, but in the meantime, if that's okay with the Zana team, just to continue.
Yes, absolutely. We are here. We can, Andrew. So I guess we can try to respond the questions, and of course, everyone that would like to disconnect, they will also have the access to the recording, to look at our Q&A afterwards.
Great. So let's move on with Parnas has another question. For longitudinal data collection, would there be any difference in data quality if patients switch devices or use web versus mobile app? Would that affect the analysis or outcomes? That's a great question.
Mm-hmm. If they switch devices. Lars, would you like to elaborate on that? And I will also pitch.
Yeah, I mean, it can make a difference between mobile and web. If they have different gain factors, I mean, with some features, it can make a difference. Now with others, it doesn't really affect. But I mean, it can have some bias when they have a longitudinal study and they switch devices. However, I would hope that usually when training, like also for different devices, those effects should be hopefully filtered out by the model, and then it's less severe. However, I mean, if they have like very different options, like some devices also have the integrated speech, voice suppression, and so on, it can affect the features. But yeah, it's possible, but hopefully, usually hope that the features are robust enough and that you select it in your training and filters out those biases.
Yeah. And just as a additional specification, our experience so far has been with the native mobile apps. Of course, we are open also to explore other ways of data collection. Once we also tried an in-ear sensor on which we had incorporated a prototype with microphone and headphones, and the quality was also very good. We don't have a web version, it's rather a mobile version. And we also take measures to do some kind of standardization in the collection. So what we have, for example, newly implemented in the app is also to look at the frequency and of the voice and then to instruct the user to hold it at a certain distance. And then we can basically capture more high quality data. But as Lars mentioned, if there is any like big change, we also expect those to be kind of filtered out when the model is built and then looking at the robustness of the model.
Yeah, and I would presume, I mean, these are these validation questions that we also might be a good candidate for the study, as we mentioned. So, you know, just you might consider also applying just to ask this question as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Raphael has a question. I'm excited to hear you're tracking pauses and breath noises in them. Do you analyze the breath noises for frequency of occurrence only, or also their acoustics?
I think so far we've mostly looked at occurrence and like length and ratio durations. Now, of course, it's also interesting. Now, so far we've mostly had in our own studies the vowel and connected speech task. I've also been looking lately into others like coughing and breathing, and yeah, and that having some more specific features for that. And that in that context, it might be a good idea to also look into that again with the connected speech task. So yeah.
Yeah. We have done some very early experiments with breathing recordings, also cough recordings, but not for the two validated use cases. So, but the technology is certainly scalable to also look at these kind of recordings. So we look forward to having those data sets as well.
It's not a question, I guess it's a comment from Rupal. Rupal's an amazing acoustic researcher herself from Northeastern University here in Boston. So she says, I'm thrilled to see this collaboration come to life. Combining voice and other physiological signals is an absolute game changer. Totally agree with you. So glad to, and by the way, because Rupal is also an expert, she might actually, if there is anything that you want to say in terms of the technical aspects or the voice, feel free to weigh in. But I just, yeah, Dr. Patel, Professor Patel is, I'm glad that she's on here as well.
I don't have anything more to add. I think the Zana team did a great job. It's been great to see this finally come to life, and the combination is incredible. I think because we've been doing things with like Labfront alone or just Zana or voice alone, and the combination is really powerful. So we are so excited about this. Awesome.
Thanks, Rupal. Let's see. I think we're close to getting things done here. So again, a question from Stephanie. Note that some research may require temperature, which requires higher-end Garmin wearables. It would help to have flexibility credits towards any Garmin device. Yeah, I mean, that would be great. I guess, you know, we're financially constrained as well. I mean, these devices are, some of them, particularly with the temperatures, are not cheap. The one that has the The peripheral temperature, the venue 3, is about $350 US. There is a 30% discount, so that if you, that we could help to provide with through Labfront. The question of credits, that's something that we'll have to think about. It's not something that we have available right now. But yeah, that's a good point in terms of temperature. Johan asked, we are building, so I guess I'm building an open access health tracker called Neosoma. It also collects voice data besides physiological external movement data. Would be possible to join in with our devices. I think we're going to have to talk offline on that, Johans. I think it's hard to make any promises without even knowing what Neosoma does. Louise, does language spoken by the subjects change the voice features or their interpretation? Very good question, Louise.
I can, Lars, would you like to pitch in and then I can add some more insights?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I suppose. I mean, yeah, I mean, definitely. Well, I mean, there are some certain languages, like tonal languages, of course, where you vary the pitch more, like, or what languages are more vowely and so on. And I guess, but so far our data sets have been mono, like one language, and yeah, so. But eventually, it shouldn't make, like with most features, they should be eventually in the process. It should be robust against that. And
yeah, so what we have validated in terms of also the accuracy, we have seen separate features. For example, we have seen the German language with the heart failure patients and the Dutch language with the COPD and asthma patients. Another, however, what I'd like to point out is also the personalized aspect. So we, as you also saw, for example, with the COPD, we look at the intra but also intrapersonal basically differences. Because we have this longitudinal approach, we have the baseline, you know, how the patient starts, how it changes over time. So there's also this personalized aspect to that, to look at the features that are, you know, personal to each individual. We do expect, of course, some high-level changes, as Lars mentioned. There are languages that are spoken very fast. There are languages that have more pauses, and so there are a series of features that may be impacted by that. But generally, as you saw, we have so many statistical variations. And then in the end, the model will be able to filter out those that have, you know, the highest significance to contribute basically to the weights in the model. So this is our approach to that.
Sounds good. Louise, thanks. Great to hear from you. I know that you speak Portuguese and English and many other languages, so maybe you could also submit something yourself. I think the last question is by Rupal. Can you discuss how you set up the analysis pipeline for your study? Also, if you're importing data collected elsewhere. Question. Is this
yes,
for Labfront? Or, yeah, or Zana?
Is this for Labfront or for Zana?
For Zana.
For Zana. So basically the pipeline, we offer different templates for this pipeline, or what we like for the processes. And they are basically composed of these building blocks. So you can start, first of all, as Prashant illustrated, the first block would be to identify the data set, and of course import that data set before that, and then to do the feature extraction. And you can stop basically in the template also just by the feature analysis. Or you can continue after the feature analysis to do the training and also to do the prediction. And so we have kind of like these predefined templates that you can just on click kind of like reanimate or reinitiate and then ingest your data set. But of course, what is important when you ingest the data set, you also correlate those voice features with this, what we call these health outcomes, right? Like it could be the events, it could be the scores. And this is where the personal, basically the personal configuration of the pipeline comes in. It's up to you as a investigator to configure to which outcomes you want to correlate. And basically the whole analysis, as Lars also showed, will be done according to those outcomes or to those scores. And the data, it can be collected also with other devices, as we mentioned, or we also offer the mobile app as an instrument for the participants to do the longitudinal data collection as well. Does this answer your question, or would there be an extended?
No, I just wanted to highlight that we can bring in data from elsewhere, but that also there's, for each study, even if we're not doing something like what you showed, the pipeline can change, and you're configuring that pipeline from the beginning in terms of how the analysis is. And now if we add Labfront data, you'll have an additional stream of physiological data. VOICE is also physiological data, but we'll have multiple streams of physiological data together to be able to analyze. So there's a setup phase, which is what the data engineering team is going to help each of the teams with, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And this is the value added in this initiative, and especially also with the research grants, so that we do this, or we offer this expert support to the investigators or to the the study groups that would like to participate, and we will assist them both with possible integration with the data that is collected through Labfront wearables, as well as in configuring their pipeline of choice. What are those outcomes or the scores that they are particularly interested to investigate? And also lots of, let's say, hand-holding through the process, also with the analytics, up to the generation of these reports that Lars showed can be easily also downloaded and used in their publications or reports of choice. Yeah, so there will be the support accompanying that process, absolutely.
Awesome. So you can see the benefits of applying for this grant for many of you who want to get the expertise assistance from the Zana team. Okay, I think that's it. And thanks for those who sort of stayed online to continue to follow up with the Q&A sessions. And Julie, I guess, anything else that you wanted to say?
That's all for today. I guess we gave a lot of insights, and as I mentioned, our team is very excited about this opportunity to really enable others to discover the power of voice. And as was already mentioned, there are a lot of question marks and new dimensions that we can, or avenues that we can research together. So we're looking forward to applications. So when we send the recordings, we will also give specifications to the page where there are furthermore instructions on how to apply, so that we can facilitate this process for any researcher or team that is interested, to work on this area. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Some questions.